Welcome in the latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Michael Bratton. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter, and I'm joined as always by my cousin Shane, who goes by Big Orange Vols on Twitter. What are you up to, you big Tennessee homer?
Hey, buddy. How you doing?
Oh, man, I'm doing a lot better than Tim Banks' defense, I'll tell you that. We watched the game together, Shane. We just got to jump right into it because this is like ripping a Band-Aid off for you. We got to get to this topic, then we can move the hell on. But nobody and their mother, and probably not even Shane Beamer's mother, saw South Carolina beating Tennessee 63-38. We had planned on doing some kind of emergency podcast. As soon as this happened, I knew Shane's going to get the hell out of here as quick as he can. He did. We watched it in person. You've had many hours to think about it. You drove all the way home, didn't even want to talk about it till now.
Nope.
So you've had hours and hours to think about it, Shane. What do you think about Spencer Rattler, Heisman candidate here?
Well, apparently South Carolina is the greatest show on turf, Mike. I didn't realize I was signing up to watch someone else's offense. But, Mike, this one, my hat's off for the Gamecock country. And there's a lot of fans. You know who you are. You gave up on these boys. I gave up on these boys. I sung their praises in the offseason. But after that Florida game, there was nothing in my mind that convinced me that there was any opportunity that South Carolina had a shot to beat the Tennessee Vols. The only thing that stood in the Tennessee Volunteers' way was themselves. And, buddy, I don't know if you – I've had a little time. We're still 24 hours out, man. So you're listening to the show on your Monday and you're like, Shane, it's been 48 hours. What's going on? No, we record the day before, so it's still a little fresh. I haven't got on social media. I really took some time off, and I'm trying not to rant and rave here, Mike, but that was the worst freaking performance I have ever seen from a defense, if you could call that. I was thinking on my way home, like we had offense and we had offensive. It's spelled the same way. That's what our defense was. It was offensive to watch. I don't know if this was just ill-prepared or we're just shitty. Or South Carolina, I will say this. Spencer Rattler dialed in. Yep. Looked like a freaking Heisman candidate out there. Wasn't missing. Anything he put up, he had an opportunity. He gave those boys an opportunity to make a player. In fact, some of the passes got dropped, and they were spot on. And so, again, my hat's off to Spencer Rattler. And you got South Carolina coming in here without two of their best players. You're convincing yourself that this is just going to be an absolute bloodbath. People are talking, hey, this is going to be a 60-point game. I'm one of them, Mike. We got to win out. We got 2 games, brother. 2 games against South Carolina and Vanderbilt, and we're walking into a college football playoff. All we got to do is put these 2 teams away. South Carolina, the 11th best offense in the SEC, brother. Think about that. There's only 3 teams worse than South Carolina, yet we allowed them 600 yards against us. This was just absolutely embarrassment, and it wasn't, I don't think, lack of athleticism. I think Tennessee's got some athletes on the backside. This is just an ill-prepared program that had some turmoil coming into it. Apparently, we're going to jump into why Banks wasn't here, and it felt like this team just felt like they could come into Columbia, get a victory, put up some points, pad some Heisman stats, and move on to the next one. And South Carolina had a different plan. They had an absolute different plan. They beat the shit out of us, Mike. They didn't just beat us. They beat the freaking brakes off of us. I could not wait to turn this thing off. In fact, when Hendon Hooker, and again, we'll get to him here in a minute, fantastic person. I love Hendon. I love everything that he stands for. His book, if you get an opportunity to buy the book. But towards ACL, went down on the turf, and when that happened and they called it a fumble, I said, Mike, it is not my cards to hang out in Nashville anymore. I could not wait to get out of that freaking town. Every time, and I just got wore off. Like Vanderbilt, when I think of Vanderbilt, I always thought of numbnuts. That's at Penn State now.
James Franklin.
James Franklin. So that every time I think of Nashville, I always thought of him and Anchor Down and all that. And it just, and I finally got over it, Mike. And then finally I get to come down here. And now every time I hear I'm sorry, brother. I love you. I know you live down there. But every time I think of Nashville, I'm going to think of Shane Beamer doing his goofy ass dance on the sideline. And he deserves it. He deserves it. South Carolina deserves it. Tennessee, this is worse than 2000. Somebody asked me, what's the worst loss you've ever seen? Georgia Southern, absolute, or Georgia State was terrible. But there wasn't high expectations in that one. I go back to 2001 when we beat Florida. A lot of people forget it was 9/11, so we played Florida at the end of the season. Nobody thought we could beat the Florida Gators. We go down there. We had an awesome game, have an awesome opportunity. All we got to do is beat LSU again. We already beat them earlier that season. Got to beat them again. They got a backup quarterback. We go from an SEC championship to a national championship, and this is 3 years removed from 1998. So I was on cloud nine thinking that this is going to happen, and guess what, Mike? This is exact same scenario. We just got to win out. We're not going against Alabama again. We're not going against Georgia again. We're going against South Carolina. We're going against the Gamecocks that got destroyed by the Florida Gators last week, and it doesn't matter. We dropped the ball. It's out. I don't give a shit. TCU goes. I don't care if Ohio State goes. Michigan, let them all go. I don't care because Tennessee will not be there, and they don't deserve it.
Yeah.
All right. There's my rant. Sorry.
Yeah, the whole rant mostly Tennessee. So I want to ask you about Tennessee in just a minute, but let's give South Carolina some love here, Shane. Look at their drive chart to start the game. Touchdown, 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 touchdown. 3 and out. That was impressive. Touchdown, 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 touchdown. 9 touchdowns on the first 10 possessions. It's just incredible. It's like, you made this comment to me. It's like we're watching Josh Heupel's offense versus Josh Heupel's offense out here. And this is coming from the most embattled offensive coordinator in the SEC, maybe the country, Marcus Satterfield. Let's give him credit for finding, it's not like he unlocked something in Spencer Rattler. Rattler's always had this talent, but schemed up a good play. 30 of 37, Spencer Rattler was for 438 yards, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. 12 different Gamecocks caught a pass. Shane Juice Wells, 11 catches, 177 yards. Josh Vann, 2 huge catches, 78 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Jaheim Bell, 82 rushing. He stepped up with some running backs out, 2 receiving touchdowns for Jaheim Bell. And how about, Shane, even maybe more disturbing than Tennessee's defense was Tennessee defenders talking trash after every damn first down they allowed. They got up and they were running their damn mouth. I don't know what in the hell that was all about, but hey, this comes down to the red zone, Shane. There's a reason I cite the red zone on every one of these damn games. South Carolina, 8 for 8 in the red zone for 56 points. They got it done in the red area. Tennessee, not nearly as good, 24 points in the red zone on 4 trips. So, man, just complete and utter domination for South Carolina's offense. And you got to remember, this is an offense, Shane, that got shut out last week in Gainesville. Yeah. Their only score was a special teams fake punt pass. So I don't know how in the hell anyone could have seen this coming. Not that South Carolina had no business winning, but the fashion in which they did dominate a top 5 team. Most points ever given up by an AP top 5 team to an unranked opponent. Tennessee Vols. And I think I saw somewhere, Shane, where they said, I haven't verified this, but someone, I think it was SEC Network, said most points Tennessee has ever given up in the poll era. I mean, this,
of course,
it was just,
of course, Mike, we're breaking records. That's what we do. That's what the Tennessee Vols do. First time we ever done this, first time we ever played like shit, and we did it. It's just, I will say this, Mike. It was just, I don't know if they had a deal with the devil, but I don't know if Satterfield has just been playing the long game, I know I'm about to get fired, but listen, it's all for good because I'm going to take down a top 5 opponent here in Columbia. I don't know what
Satterfield
it was,
employed? I mean,
how can it not, Mike? Because this is me. If I'm Satterfield, you came in with this game knowing that you're going to have to open up your offense and do shit you have not done in weeks past. You knew that this was going to be some sort of a shootout, and it's going to require you to throw down the field. And it was like a light bulb went off when he seen Rattler just connecting on these 20, 30 yards. I mean, there's 3rd and 20 plays, Mike. They're getting 30 yards off of, like here we get an opportunity. It's 3rd and 20 and it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We're going to give somebody wide open down the middle of the field. And if this isn't an eye opener for Satterfield saying, wait a minute, I could have been doing this the whole freaking time. This is what we've been telling you. There's weapons in South Carolina. A lot of people are just like blown away by some of these names and folks that they've seen down here. There's athletes on this roster, and they got to play. They got to play Saturday. It was almost like the kids' gloves were taken off. They're no longer in the shallow end. They're in the deep end. And wait a minute, these kids can swim? Hell yeah, they can swim. And South Carolina, I don't know what the spread is. I'm sure we're going to get to it here with Clemson right around the corner. But, buddy, if they continue to play like they did this Saturday, they can beat anybody, man.
Yeah, and when it comes to Marcus Satterfield, though, Shane, I got to be honest, I think we got to see them against Clemson. Not saying they got to beat Clemson because that would be an upset, but hell, if they revert back to the same old and, we got all these issues, then one game does not make a career because we've seen him enough to know that there's some bad tendencies in there, and the offense, has struggled mightily for much of the season. So I'm not ready to say he stays, but, Tennessee may have lost the battle but won the war if old Marcus Satterfield keeps his damn job. But, hey, you mentioned Hendon Hooker. Unfortunately, he did tear his ACL. That was confirmed by Tennessee, so he's out. He had 3 touchdowns. Hendon Hooker, 25 of 42, 247. yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. They didn't lose this game because of Hendon Hooker, Shane. So I don't want him to factor in what I'm about to ask you, but I think 100 out of 100 Tennessee fans, Shane, if I would have told you in the preseason, you're going to go 10-2, you're going to beat Alabama, you're going to beat Florida. I think, like I said, 100 out of 100 would take it, but at the same time, Shane, maybe it's fair to say no one had an easier path to the college football playoff the final 2 weeks of the season. Beat South Carolina, beat Vanderbilt. You more than likely would have punched your chance to the college football playoff. And it just seems like a massive, massive wasted opportunity. Are you more upset at that, or are you still sitting here saying, well, 10-2 is possible, New Year's 6 day, all that could come with it, could be still of a hell of a year. Are you happy, or are you disappointed by just the massive gut punch here at the end?
Disappointed, man. I mean, I think you know the answer to that one, and it's just a given that it and nothing against. That's the thing. I don't want to say it's just South Carolina, because this isn't the same South Carolina I've seen the last 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. This is an eye-opening experience if you're a Gamecock lover, because it's almost, I would be disappointed if I was South Carolina too. You know what I'm saying? Like there's been plenty of games that if we would have played like this, we'd be looking at a 10-win season easily. You know, they've not been doing that, and now we're second guessing, and then you go into this one. So as a Vol fan, this is put on a pedestal. This season is put on a pedestal. We beat freaking Alabama.
But let me ask you this, because this is something that was on my mind as I was thinking about this show.
I'm emotional, Mike. I'm trying not to blame Tennessee. I'm not blaming the whole team. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to do that. I don't want to blame. We've had a great season up to this point, and I don't want to belittle. Or I don't want to downplay what South Carolina did, because what they did was special. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't want to take that away from them either. So just keep that in mind. I'm trying to use my words appropriately here, but I am still, man, it's still fresh. It's still fresh.
Let me put it to you like this, because this is kind of how I was putting it together in my head. Certainly you can make the case. I don't think there's any doubt this is the worst loss Josh Heupel has had as Tennessee's head coach. And at the same time, Shane, something that I have said the entire Josh Heupel era is we're getting away from the same old Vols, where you drop, games you shouldn't be dropping. You get just destroyed by better teams. embarrassing results, on and on and on. We have completely gone away from that. And I'm not sitting here burying Heupel and his program, but this was a Butch Jones, Jeremy Pruitt, Derek Dooley type performance.
Yeah.
And they have got to do whatever the hell they can to make sure this doesn't become a trend, because this felt like Tennessee of old we've seen the last couple of years.
Mike, and that's what we've got to look at it like. A 10-2 season is very obtainable. You know, Vanderbilt, which we're going to get to them in a little bit, is playing pretty good here lately. So I can't just mark that one in, but easily could be a 10-2 season. And if you would have promised me that week one, Mike, I would have kissed you on the mouth. I wouldn't care who the losses are. I mean, it could have been South Carolina and Vandy. I'd be like, you know what? I'll take it. You know what I'm saying? A win over Alabama. You know, that's just something we've not been able to celebrate in a long, long time. So I don't want to pull away from how magical this season has been up to this point. I just hate how it's ended. But you're right, this is not the old Tennessee Vols. This is the Tennessee Vols of the 90s, man, when, you know, you always had that opportunity to go to a national championship or an SEC championship as long as you played your cards right. You always had the athletes. You always had the ability. You know, it's been a long time. It's been over a decade. We're going into games just praying to God we don't get blown out by 3 or 4 scores like we did, you know. So I'm not pulling away from this one. I hate how it happened, but I still think as a Tennessee Vol fan, you got to be happy with the progression that Heupel and company has made up to this point. You know, this is the first one, man. This is the first one that we're walking away like second guessing some of the and I've heard it. Everybody's talking about the defensive coordinators and the you know and the situation. This, yes, it's going to have that little asterisk by the loss. But, you know, how do we bounce back from here? Where do we go from here? If we beat Vanderbilt, we win a bowl game, we keep the recruits coming in, we're back on same page next year coming into to week one. So I'm not giving up on Hop. We've got the right coach here in Tennessee. It's just unfortunate the season didn't end like we wanted to, man. We were waiting for a Cinderella story, you know, and we can't find that damn shoe, you know.
And things like that, and for those guys to not listen to not listen to anyone on the outside. We talked on Tuesday morning too. No disrespect, that you guys don't get to write the story of this football team. Like every single person in here, I think, thought they knew how this game was going to go. Every person in here thought, well, we've seen this story before. You know how Carolina's going to finish, and it's a new Carolina, guys. You don't get to write the story. We write the story, and that's what we talked to our team about on Tuesday morning. They write the story of how this thing's going to finish. Everybody thinks they've seen this, read this book, seen this movie. They know how the chapter ends. Well, no, you don't, because I know what that team's about in that locker room, and so proud of them and so happy for them as well. So I don't know. I can keep going for hours. Y'all got questions?
I guess when you look at tonight and what Spencer did, I mean, what can you say about his performance tonight and what you saw from him as a quarterback?
The guy that he is. I mean, 30 of 30. I didn't even realize that. 30 of 37 for 438 yards and 6 touchdowns. Oh my God, he was on. You know, you talk about players and being in the zone. I mean, that guy was in the zone tonight. Sapp was in the zone with the way he was calling stuff. I mean, our whole mindset going into this game, Ben, was attack. You weren't gonna win this football game punting on 4th down and not being aggressive. And the way that we coached the game offensively, the way we coached the game special teams wise, the calls that Clayton made was not sitting back and being passive. Like, we wanted to dictate to them how this game was going to go. And Spencer did. He was aggressive, throwing the ball down the field. And then, you know, just defensively as well. Obviously, losing Nicky Memori was a huge loss earlier in the game. But how about Peyton Williams? I mean, we're sitting here trying to redshirt the kid and hadn't even played much this year. And then he goes in an environment like that and plays his rear end off. So proud of him.
Josh, the defensive effort, the passing yards, the 3rd and 4th down conversions, did you sense that? I mean,
they got big, strong, physical wide outside on the outside. I felt like we would have an opportunity to match up out there. And, you know, we played man, we played zone. You know, Tim tried to find an answer to it, and at the end of the day, we didn't. The run game early in the football game in particular, hit us with a little bit of the wildcat, but we anticipated some of those things. The power read got us a couple times early, but at the end of the day, we didn't defend anything the way that you need to, and you can't play in this league that way.
We've asked about like going to Atlanta, the playoff, or any sort of that stuff. How do you approach the big picture with guys about you have a game next week, you have a bowl after that? How are you approaching that with your guys?
Yeah, for us in this program, this one needs to hurt on the way back, and needs to hurt the guys that aren't on this trip that will be in our building tomorrow afternoon and be there on Monday. For us to grow as a program, you got to look at this opportunity and understand what happened and let it hurt and remember that as you move forward and let it help you grow.
Well, hey, the best news you're going to hear all week, Shane. We're moving on from that one. Let's get to Kentucky losing at home to Georgia 16-6. This was like some old school SEC football. A cold weather, ugly game. Georgia had an opportunity to just smash Kentucky, but for the second week in a row, Shane, Georgia kind of cracked that door open for an opponent. They did it last week, Mississippi State, right before halftime, let them back in the game. They did it here. Goal line, stuffed, could have went up 19-0. That's a three-score game in my book, but they decided to go for it, got stuffed. And, that was basically a huge turning point in the game because Kentucky dominated from that point. They immediately turned right around, scored a touchdown, missed on a 2-point conversion, but drove down the field again, and then just one of the worst executed special teams you're ever going to see. Bad snap, bad hold, god-awful kick, slammed the door on Kentucky's chances in this ballgame. But once again, Shane, red zone issues come back to plague Georgia. They went to the red zone 5 times. They came away with 16 points. So very few touchdowns in their red zone trips. That is going to kill you in a college football playoff game. Stetson Bennett, very average, despite what Gary Danielson had to say about him in this game. Had one of the worst interceptions I've seen all season. Of course, Will Levis had one of his own throwing a pick in the end zone that could have been a game-defining play for Kentucky had they got something there. That was just a backbreaker. But, credit credit Kentucky, Shane, for manning up and showing that they can play with the Georgia Bulldogs. For some reason, they get up for the Georgia Bulldogs. If only they would have done that against Vanderbilt or Tennessee, they might have had a hell of a season here. But Georgia did dominate on the ground. We got to give them that. 247 rushing yards, 1 touchdown, and they only allowed 89. Chris Rodriguez had only 51. So you stifle Kentucky on the ground. That's why they only get 6 points in a ball game like this. What was your major takeaways from Georgia going on the road in one of the toughest matchups they've gotten this season?
Well, I think this was big for Kentucky program. Will Levis, tweeted after this game, and I think it was a little bit of a wake-up call for them, because they were a little bit on a downward spiral. And I don't want to take comfort in any, moral victory here, but I think they fought tough here, man. Yeah. That's the couple of goal line stands, like you mentioned. There's just a couple of opportunities that Georgia really could have started running away with this thing, and Kentucky didn't allow that. But there's also, Mike, a little confusion. I feel like Kirby and the crew here, they just they change their script based on who they're playing. Sometimes it feels like it felt like, if you're watching this game, okay, let's be competitive. Let's do our defense thing, and let's just pound the rock. Let's don't ask too much for Stetson. Let's don't ask too much for some of these playmakers. Let's just keep it vanilla, keep it easy, keep everything in front of us. And it felt like that's kind of what we had, and Georgia was maybe expecting to kind of run away with that formula, and when they weren't, then they had to try to get a little creative on the backside of that. So I don't know, that part drives me nuts, and it's almost like they're trying to hide their playbook or something. I don't know if you got that same feel, but, this is the same offense I saw, against Tennessee. Well, apparently everybody's offense is amazing against Tennessee, come to find out. But you know what I'm saying? They took shots. They stretched the field. They got vertical, and it really helped that running game. Something I was surprised they didn't even really attempt to do during the Kentucky game until it just stayed close too long.
Yeah. Well, also I think you always got to factor in, Shane, that Georgia is literally everybody's Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Now they don't got the talent of Georgia. That's why they lose more often than not when they face these Georgia Bulldogs. But everybody gets up for this ball game. Biggest home game. Anybody that gets to host Georgia, that's their premier home game. So there's something said for that. Georgia's, they've already locked up the East. They could have lost this one. They could have lost to Georgia Tech. They still probably would have went to the college football playoff. So I don't want to say motivation is a problem, but certainly motivation, bigger emphasis, I would think, for Kentucky coming off that horrible Vanderbilt showing. They had to prove that they are not the worst team in the SEC, and I certainly think they got that done here on Saturday. But they just don't have the firepower yet. Too many mistakes. 3 of 11 on third downs. That'll kill you. And like I said, I pointed to Georgia's red zone issues. Kentucky had 3 red zone trips, come away with 6 points. That ain't going to get it done. I understand Georgia's an elite defense, but you have to cash in when they give you just 3 opportunities. You got to come away with some touchdowns down there. And had you done that, you probably would have won this football game. But how about this, Shane? This is pretty interesting.
Well, can I ask you real quick? Do you think it messes with confidence? I mean, last week Stetson didn't have the greatest game against Mississippi State. A couple of ugly picks in that one as well. And it felt like we were a little bit more conservative to this one. Do you think that was just game script, or do you think there was a little bit like, hey, let's hold them back a little bit, let's don't. I know we had that ugly pick during this game, but it just felt like we were really conservative with our play calling.
Right.
Did you sense that, or did
maybe?
Or
but I think if Georgia coaches were being honest, Shane, they said if we get to 20 points, there's no chance we lose this game. Because Kentucky can't score 20. That's probably the mindset they went going in with. Now, they only got 16, but again, that was good enough. There was issues, though. Kentucky, again, they played well. Marion Brown, 10 catches, 145 yards, a touchdown. He had his best game as a Wildcat, and that's saying something because he's had some nice performances here. But, yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying. On the road, hostile environment, not really opening the playbook, and maybe it's a confidence issue, but maybe it's, they saw that one Stetson Bennett interception. Again, it was awful. I mean, it literally was a punt with his arm. Once you see that from your quarterback, maybe you sit here and say, let's pull the reins back a little bit. Let's just go conservative. We can get this done. Let's not beat ourselves. And I think that was the game plan going into this one.
But if you would have rolled them out, I mean, there was a real. We see Stroud. We seen Hooker's out. There's not a real just a standout candidate for a Heisman, and I know some people don't play for that, but that's something you could really sell on a recruiting trail. And Stetson had an opportunity to do it against Kentucky and Georgia Tech here. Right. Just close out these next 2 games, put some great stats up, have an undefeated program, the only undefeated program in the SEC. Right. Real opportunity, and I feel like he's going to get lost with some of these other names because he doesn't just stand out here toward the tail end of this season.
Well, I know Gary was trying. He's trying,
man. I mean, he had the script, but you can only talk about a sweet 7-yard sidearm pass so many times before it's like, dude, he's just throwing sideways. Come on.
Let me ask you this last thing on this one, though, Shane. This is pretty interesting. So Kentucky got a signed agreement with Mark Stoops on a contract extension. That was revealed today, Sunday. We're recording on Sunday. But apparently he signed it the day before the Vanderbilt game. So they kept it quiet after the Vanderbilt loss. They kept it quiet after this loss, and then it got leaked to the local media. So how bad is that, though? I mean, you sign someone and you don't even want to – they still haven't announced it or anything like that. even though they're signed documents. I don't know what that says, but apparently Stoops is going to be making close to $9 million now. He makes more than John Calipari, which basketball school. I mean, he can throw the contract in his face. But apparently they've done away, Shane, with the you win 7 games, you get an extension. You win 10, you get an automatic 2-year extension. So that was part of this. Gets more money, but less, locked into this mega deal because he's going to win 7 games basically every year from there on out. But it's just fascinating to me, Shane, that this is like being kept under wraps after a 2-game skid here.
Yeah, I mean, there probably was a time. I mean, they planned on rolling this out after Vanderbilt. And,
exactly.
Exactly. You want to get it out there, and because the recruiting thing, there's the rumor mill. There was a lot of talk. I mean, even the Auburn job you brought up once. That
that's exactly what I was going to say. His representatives, I assume, is Jimmy Sexton, probably got his name out there, and now he's got an extension, and they want to get this out before the Auburn job is official because
that's all this is.
Exactly.
I think it's good too, man. I'm not trying to take anything away from Kentucky, but you got your guy, man. Mm-hmm. You really do, and I think what Mark realizes is maybe with a little bit, I don't know exactly the details, but it's about that support staff, and that's where he messed up this year, I think. Mm-hmm. And I think he gets it corrected here in the offseason. So I'm not worried about Kentucky, and I'm glad they gave him the money because there's not a lot of options out there right now for you.
Now how about this one, Shane? Big time showing here for the Arkansas Razorbacks, 42, Ole Miss 27, and the score was not even as close as that final would indicate, Shane. I mean, at halftime it was 35-6. Tons of yards piled up by both teams in this one, but the difference, penalties killed Ole Miss. Anytime they had a touchdown or a big play called back by penalty, Ole Miss fans, I'm sure there's some angry emails sent into the SEC office because I'm not saying these were bad calls, but just any call is going to get you called it. These fans are going to be pissed. KJ Jefferson just made a absolutely huge difference in this ball game, Shane. They forced a turnover on Ole Miss' first drive, and then the offense, they go 3 and out right away, but then touchdown, punt, touchdown. They were just on fire. The battle of the SEC rushers, Shane. Rocket Sanders, 232 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns, both career highs. While Judkins, 214 and a touchdown. But even Zach Evans, Shane, throw him into the mix, 207 yards rushing and a touchdown. I have not looked this up, but this has got to be the only time in Ole Miss history they've had 2 200-yard rushers and lost the football game. I mean, how's that even possible? I don't know. But KJ Jefferson, like I said, came back 17 of 22, 168 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's tough as hell, making people miss left and right, connecting with receivers. He got Matt Landers for 2 touchdowns that were big in this ball game. KJ's just the heart and soul of this team, Shane, and with him, this is what we've been trying to say. I mean, people pile on for this Arkansas love, but when he's firing on all cylinders, you just embarrassed a top 15 team. Getting SEC night games at home, also a factor. We're seeing that all across the league. Give Arkansas more home games, and we'll see more big results like this. But this was just a complete domination from a team that a lot of people had written off.
Yeah, and again, I think that the important thing is the score. You got to put a little asterisk, man, because this score was not close. I think it was like 42-6 at one point. This was just an absolute beatdown. And it seemed like every time you looked up, Rocket Sanders was breaking loose for another touchdown. So that's the Arkansas we signed up for, Mike. And I want to get ahead of this because there were some people in the mentions. Mike messed up on my score prediction. I predicted.
Here we go.
Listen. If you go back to the podcast prediction, I got a lot of them wrong, but this one I didn't. I said, well, I got the points wrong, but I did say that Arkansas was going to pull off the upset. Morristown haunted that thing, but when I sent over my picks to Mike, he put the old score in because I changed it that day. I just had a gut feeling. Had a gut feeling that Arkansas was due. So you're welcome. So I did a lot of good things, and I've done a lot of bad things, Mike. I also, and I don't want to recap Tennessee, but a lot of people have been saying, Shane, This loss is on you. You gave up on the Bama walks, and then look. And you know what? They're right. I made a deal with the football gods, and I didn't fulfill my end. So I want to apologize to the Vol Nation, and I want to apologize for the Arkansas Razorbacks for doubting you for a split second. I brought you back, though. You deserve this one. And you're right. There needs to be more night games down there. That place was freaking electric, and they're missing out on it. So, we gotta get this together. We gotta fix it, because Arkansas deserves nice things like other schools.
Right. Now, how about this though, Angle, for Ole Miss, Shane? I mean, here you were on seemingly another historic season. There's rampant speculation, not just us, but I mean everybody's talking Lane Kiffin to Auburn.
Yeah.
Even the players are being asked about it after the game, so clearly they're well aware. Kiffin doesn't want to go there when he could slam the door shut on it. Of course, coaches slam the door shut on stuff like that all the time, then they leave the following day. So, it's not like he owes anybody anything. This is professional, contract and everything. But, man, this really seems to be affecting the team, in my opinion, Shane. Once things went down against them, they just caved. And now we got a short week traveling back for a game that is more meaningful than any other in that state, the Egg Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about big-time pressure. I don't know if there's huge pressure on Ole Miss to win it, but if you drop it, this is a disaster of a season after starting out as hot as you did. And for Mississippi State, we'll get to them in a moment, but you've dropped 2 Egg Bowls in a row. Pressure there. Man, I'm already hyping up the Egg Bowl, Shay. That's the first SEC game next week, of course, on Thanksgiving. Cannot wait for that football game. But what do you make of the storylines going into that one, Shay, with Ole Miss coming off just a thrashing and their coach maybe leaving at any moment as soon as the game's over? That just does not favor Ole Miss, does it?
No. I think not just us, but fans especially, they need a little bit of closure.
Mm-hmm.
And whether that's an extension or whether that's I'm taking the Auburn job or something, just something that's kind of adrift in the ocean, and then we come out with a first half performance like we saw this week. You cannot, we've seen this. Maybe not with Lane Kiffin, but we've seen it with other coaches. Got one foot out the door, you start losing. Prime example, Jimbo Fisher, Florida State fell apart when he was down there his final season. So
right.
I think that's what we need is just confirmation, not the game plan, because that's what they're doing right now. There's a lot of backdoor dealings, and they're going to try to get Lane Kiffin some money or get him something, to either stay at Ole Miss for a few more years or, lock him down indefinitely or get him a new job. But I think that's what we've got to hear. This rivalry week is a big week because this is when coaches get fired. This is when, you start hearing the rumor mill fired up. And so I don't know. That's what I've got to see, because there's a lot of players in limbo. And if Lane leaves, don't be surprised that, that flipness that he talks about, brother, that transfer portal is going to be hopping down there in Ole Miss if Lane's out of there.
Right.
Were you surprised that KJ was able to throw the ball that well early, given his injury? And is he 100% now, or?
What'd you think? He looked pretty good, didn't he?
Good.
I was not surprised. He had no medication or anything like that this week. We made the decision last week because of the week before. He hadn't practiced, and I think we just would have put him in that cycle of non-practice, give it up for the team. And he would have done it, but we felt like if we get him back, and because our defense has been playing better, and because they're healthier as well too, we felt like we could come and maybe do what we did tonight. And but it was about his health too. But no, I wasn't, because he's been throwing it really well in practice.
Sam Rocket obviously stole the show, but your first 2 scores, Landers made a couple really nice catches, one in traffic,
Man,
the other over the shoulder.
he got rocked on the first one. He got hit, and then the second one where it was, those are hard. Brad's probably caught a few whenever he was in college, but those are hard, over the top and to the left. and or Baz. What I say, Brad, and those are hard to catch, and those were two great catches. Now, it was a great throw by KJ. Well, both of them, but the one that was outside over the top, that's only him and nobody else.
Do y'all see Landers make those kind of catches like behind closed doors, like during the week?
Do we see him catch those kind of balls?
Yeah.
Yeah, quite a bit. I mean, especially, I tell you, Landers has just gotten better over the second half of the season. You know, he's got a lot more confidence and got a lot better.
Sam,
I'm just smiling at my wife. I'm usually gloom and doom. I mean, the last 2 weeks.
Obviously, getting off to the kind of start you guys got off to, was there any part of you that felt this team was distracted at all about all the stuff that was out there this week?
I don't know. I mean, you know, a lot of analytics of Alabama hangovers. Ask LSU that came in here last week, you know, and whatever, scored 13 points against these guys. So, you know, maybe there was some of that. But I think really we didn't play well on defense, obviously, and we did play well on offense in a lot of areas. We didn't finish drives, we had 3 turnovers. But, you know, there was some good, takes doing a lot of good things well, too, to get 700 yards in an SEC game. I mean, it sounds weird to even say rushing for 460 yards and losing the game, but values of turnovers and, you know, not stopping on the other side.
There were reports that Ole Miss extended you or presented you with a new terms of contract, that kind of thing. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, I'm not getting into that. I never do talk about that stuff. And I'm very happy here. I'm not happy right now. It has nothing to do with being here. Not having a doubt. I just really wanted to get to, you know, 9-2 and get to 10-2 next week. So that's all I'm worried about. So very happy to be here. Very appreciative of leadership here and stuff they do to give us a chance to win.
With the reports out there that you're Auburn's #1 target, I know that's a lot of noise, but what does the future hold for you? What does the future hold for Ole Miss?
Yeah, fair question. Like I said, I love being here. I mean, I don't want to look to next year already with a regular season game, but this is not one of those years where you say, oh, we're going to lose all these guys. There's a lot of people coming back and a lot of new guys offensively especially. So very excited about the future. So I don't know all that stuff out there, #1 and stuff. Maybe they watched the first half. It wouldn't be #1 anymore.
Well, hey, the last SEC matchup we had, Shane, we led with this team's victory last week because it was such a big deal. But now maybe we just got to get used to Vanderbilt winning conference football games 31-24 over the Florida Gators. Man, this is just the streaks. And you want to talk bad streaks, Shane. First win for Vanderbilt over Florida in Nashville since 1988. Florida had beaten Vanderbilt 30 out of 31 times entering into this game. Vandy had lost 26 in a row in the SEC. Now they've won back-to-back. And how about his players? Shane Clark Lee, post-game interview. They were kind enough not to dump him with the Gatorade bath till he was done with the sideline reporter. I thought that was fantastic. But, man, at the end of the day, Shane, this one, not trying to take away anything from Vanderbilt because they earned this one.
Oh, yeah.
You cannot win games like this without earning it. But, my God, Shane, did Florida mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake. I saw our buddy Will Miles, friend of the show, he counted. This is unofficial. I haven't verified this, but he essentially said mistakes led to a 34-point swing in this ball game, and it was only a 7-point game, so mistakes were huge. Florida muffin, the punt was the biggest one, led to an easy touchdown for Vanderbilt. The long snapper fell on the ball. Anthony Richardson keeping a play alive, trying to make a heroic play, and then it results in the most amazing interception I've ever seen by a Vanderbilt defender. And then, this kind of sums up the game perfectly, Shane. Florida had an opportunity late, one final throw, and Anthony Richardson just skyrockets the ball about 10 yards into the stands on a Hail Mary attempt that could have tied or won the ball game. I mean, you got to at least give your guys a shot, but that is not something that happened with all these mistakes. Florida, Billy Napier, his worst loss, and I get it, Shane. All the goodwill that he probably got from beating Texas A&M, from beating South Carolina, that's likely out the window because there's just no excuse. Florida should be competing for SEC and national championships, not losing to year 2 Vanderbilt coach. But having said all that, Shane, I see all the comments. Sunbelt Billy's in over his head. I'm not saying he's the next Kirby Smart, but Kirby Smart did lose to Vanderbilt at home his first year. So you don't write a coach off after something like this, but man, you just basically this can never happen again, I feel like.
It gives you pause, But even Saban, what is it, Louisiana Monroe?
Right.
So I mean, we've all got that ugly girl we dated once, that we've got. That's what this one is. But I will say, Mike, this was a great game for Vanderbilt. Again, back-to-back SEC games. Yeah. Kentucky, Florida. If I told you week 1 that Vandy wins 2 SEC games, you'd think I was crazy. But to win them back-to-back against those 2 teams, I think that just shows you, again, progression. It's nominal. It's not big, but it's one step. And next thing you know, they're competing with teams in the SEC. That's what it's going to take to be competitive in Nashville. They got to have this slow build, and they played awesome, man. They played great. They held the defense, especially. It blows my mind. Here you've got Hunter and Etienne can't even get 50 yards combined. And last week, it looks like they would have been able to run for 300 yards during this game.
Right.
But it was a team came to play and a team didn't. And kind of a similar theme for some of our programs here this weekend. If you were ill-prepared, man, a lot of these programs made you pay for it.
Yeah, aside from all the miscues, that was key to the game, Shane. Rushing, Vanderbilt, 175 yards. Florida,
I think 40. I said Hunter. I meant Johnson, sorry.
Florida, 45 rushing yards. That's supposed to be Florida's bread and butter. You cannot rush for 45 yards against any SEC opponent. You're going to lose a ball game, and you nailed it, brother. Vanderbilt, 2 SEC wins. That's twice as many as Texas A&M. So, oh, my goodness, who in the world could have seen that
what
coming?
the Aggies do to you? They got a victory, and you're still piling on them.
Well, let's go right there next, Shay. 20-3 over UMass.
Oh, wait. We got to mention the fine. So after the game, Vandy slowly but politely made their way down to the football field. I think there was about 4,000 of them. And they got hit with a $250,000 fine, So I guess maybe they thought, well, when's the next time we're going to have an opportunity to do it to these guys? So let's lay it on them.
I think, no question, a ton of missed opportunities out there today. This is a simple game. I think our group knows what winning football looks like. We did not play winning football today. You think about the opportunities and the mistakes within the game. A couple red zone opportunities early made us kick field goals. We got 6 to show for some of that momentum we had early. Really made 2 turnovers in the game that led to 14 points. And we had way too many penalties in the game, okay? And a handful of penalties that resulted in first downs on third down, in particular in the first half. And then you got to give Vanderbilt some credit. They did some things today well. But, there's a lot of Florida beating Florida out there today, and that's my job, is to have the players ready to play. We did not do that today.
A&M, Shane, did finally snap their lose. They had lost 6 in a row. Now they're on a winning streak of sorts here, Shane. 20-3 over UMass, but don't get too excited over beating 1-10 UMass, Shane. The score was 10-3 at halftime. The score was 13-3 in the fourth quarter. And had UMass had any kind of competent quarterback or just an individual player on offense, they may have won this game, Shane. I mean, this was ugly football. Tweet of the weekend goes to you, cousin Shane. Texas A&M, home of the 12 men. If you missed it, there was literally about 100 people in the 100,000-plus stadium that they had. That's a horrible sign. I know the weather was rough, but it was more about the performance on the field than anything else. Shane, Texas A&M had 4 turnovers in this ball game. You're lucky to survive games like that, and I mean, there's just not much to take away other than this is just a train wreck of a season.
Disaster, and I think you were right. Me and we watched this. Oh my gosh, it was on the small TV far away in the corner, but it was on, and there was just no offense on either side, short of Wigman just running the ball. Yeah. There was no pulse on that side. That felt bad. The fans. That's the one thing that really stood out to me. Texas A&M fans have always been there, have always been supportive, and that's kind of like their saving grace. But when you're looking around an empty stadium, that's when it starts hitting the pocket. That's when things get real. So I'm kind of curious how that plays out. We keep saying it can't get any lower. They've got one game left. They're out of. They can't get to a bowl, can they?
No,
they're done.
They're eliminated.
Yeah,
from that.
So I mean that's their championship, and I'm not convinced that they have an opportunity. Of course, we'll get into that one, but this was just again another terrible game that you never want to watch again.
Right. I mean, the most entertaining thing, Shane. I hope everybody's seen this. If you're not. There was A&M fans with waving the towels, and it was kind of like a relay race running the upper decks. There was literally no one in the stands to stop these people. They're just waving their towels, running around like maniacs, and that is all the entertainment we're getting in College Station right now, because it sure as hell is not coming from this offense led by Jimbo Fisher. One other one, Shane, late game. Saturday night, Death Valley, LSU takes care of business 41-10 over UAB. I got a kick out of people saying, "Oh, LSU sleepwalking or taking it easy, 7-7 right out the gate. Is this going to be an interesting ball game?" Hell no, because them Tigers, Shade, went on a 34-3 run to close the game. I mean, the offense 299 passing, 266 rushing. That's perfect balance there. Jaden Daniels, another outstanding performance, 297 passing, a touchdown, 111 rushing and a touchdown. Noah Kane, 3 touchdowns on the ground. Malik Neighbors had himself a day. LSU 11 of 13 on third downs and 6 of 7 in the red zone for 41 points. Again, I realize UAB, that's not how LSU judges themselves, but in a day where contenders were being challenged, were being threatened, LSU quietly and efficiently just destroyed the competition, marching a step closer to the SEC championship game, and just really took care of business.
They really did, man. This game just ended 10 minutes ago, too. It's Sunday, so really, really late one. I mean, there was nothing else to watch on TV but this one, and it was not a ball game at all. Like you said, Daniels and company, they just did their job. It got a little interesting at first because there was that narrative, like, it's been going around. It's been happening all weekend. So, and then LSU's like, nah, we're just going to go ahead and knock this one out. And that's exactly what they did. This was just a little box. This is a tune-up game. They got to get some of the starters out toward the end. Mm-hmm. This is exactly how you draw it up here, Mike.
Yeah, Garrett Nussmeier. It's always good to get to back up some reps here in live action. They even got able to do that. Speaking of taking care of business, Shane, Auburn destroyed Western Kentucky 41-17. This game was actually tied up at halftime, Shane, 17 all. Western Kentucky scored with 6 minutes left on essentially like a busted play. Really a poor job by Auburn. And I said to you, Shane, watch out, man. That could be the play that cost Auburn this game. That was terrible, and boy, did I look like a damn fool, because Auburn went 24-0 in the second half for a dominating performance. Every Auburn drive, Shade, was either a score or a 3-and-out. So it was the ultimate boomer bust in this matchup. Tank Bigsby, 110 rushing, 2 touchdowns. Jarquez Hunter, 109 and a touchdown. Auburn got it done in the red zone, 3 of 3 for 17 points. And, really, they just dominated the second half. When this was a game, I was very concerned they were going to be looking ahead to the Iron Bowl. I was afraid they'd get caught up in the emotions of beating A&M. But, man, they took care of business against a highly prolific offense. The defense, maybe their best performance of the season.
Well, that's what I took from it, Mike. This was, again, a very tough ball game. And there's a moment when I kept saying, a lot of people forget who the coach is up there at Western Kentucky, is Helton, used to be at Tennessee. And I started wondering, is this a name we're going to see floating around on some of these short lists here in the offseason? And they were playing the part. They were looking good. And what I love about Auburn, though, was the adjustments, and especially on that defensive side of the ball. When they came back out, it was like, okay, we're not playing with our food anymore. We're going to, you know what I'm saying? And they just destroyed them. Interception, turnovers, turnovers on downs. It was just, it's exactly how you drew it up. And then before you know it, this was not a ball game at all.
Yeah. Well, speaking of not being a ball game, Shane, Missouri took care of New Mexico State 45-14 in a game that wasn't really even as close as that. This is another, we got all the freshmen on the field and everything like that. Brady was cooking early. He was a rushing threat. He was completing 4th down passes. Luther Burden got him involved early, first touchdown of the game. He's out here hurdling defenders. Big 32-yard touchdown to the tight end right before half. And the only disappointment from this game, Shane, Missouri's D did not get that goose egg.
I know.
Like Cousin
I
Shane
felt it
predicted.
coming. I kept saying, Mike, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. But they let one slip away there. The late third quarter, I think. They finally got one on the board. But no, this again, this is Missouri just not fumbling. You know what I'm saying? And it felt like there was some games during the season they kind of – they didn't, I think they'd like to have back. This one, they never left any doubt. They just went out there, they shut down that side of the ball, they made them extremely one-dimensional, and then the offense got to play a little bit. I know we had a little changing of the guard there with the coaching, the play calling, and I think it was for the better because this offense was moving a little bit more efficient Saturday.
And what it sets up, Shane, if they beat Arkansas, not a given by any means, but if they beat Arkansas, they punch their ticket to the postseason once again. That's what you want to be playing for, if nothing else, at the end of the season. So a nice win here for Missouri. And real quick, Shane, before we move on to the next team, I don't know if you saw this. I just want to get your reaction to it because apparently, I've seen big names discussing this. Charles Barkley, which again, we all know Charles Barkley. I don't know how much of an SEC football insider he is, but he's an Auburn legend. He follows the game and everything. He went on a show on Friday. I think it was Next Round Live, big show out of Birmingham. He said there's an SEC firing, a surprise firing. So he's not talking Auburn. This was just Friday. He says a surprise firing is coming, and the school that is going to do the firing is going after Deion Sanders. So, again, I don't know that this is true, but this was a Next Round Live. This is a legitimate show. Charles Barkley, I don't think he's out here making stuff up, but who knows? He's just sharing what he's hearing. So let's say he's 100% right, Shane, which, again, I have no idea if he is. But if he is, who do you think he's talking about here? Because I got one at the top of my mind, and I'm just curious if you got the same one.
Brother, I'm going to go I will go Mississippi State.
Bingo. That's exactly
is that where you're going?
Where I was going to say Mike Leach. So they get the big win here, 56-7. They're playing ETSU, though, so no one cares about that. They were efficient, but that just kind of puts in perspective. I was kind of hinting at this earlier. They've lost 2 Egg Bowls in a row. Ole Miss is stumbling into this ball game. I realize it's in Oxford. They're going to have the home field advantage, but there's major, major pressure, Shane. Mississippi State, not that they're terrible by any means, but they did not live up to the hype. We've been hyping this team up all off season long. They didn't get it done for us. You beat Ole Miss. You kind of save that face a little bit here. I think they'd be 8-4 if I'm not mistaken. So that's a good year. I don't know you can fire Mike Leach after an 8-4 and you just win the Egg Bowl. But if they drop it and he's lost all 3 of his Egg Bowls and we got a new AD coming in here, I don't know. I mean, this is complete speculation, but Deion Sanders, Mississippi State, boy, that'd be wild, wouldn't it?
Well, and also, I mean, you're talking about 2 campuses now that are 2 hours away from each other.
Yeah.
So I mean, you take. I know that we're looking at this from East Tennessee and the entire SEC, but when you're talking about Mississippi State that's been up and down and struggling, and we need a sexy hire and all these names floating around, and then 2 hours down the road you've got Jackson State, that has landed the number 1 recruit in the entire country last year. I mean, that's got to be making waves down there and saying, why not us? Why don't we just bring them up here and let them do that in the SEC? Why let Deion leave the state and go to Auburn and coach when he could do that right here in Mississippi, where he's been recruiting anyway and getting to know some of these local coaches because that's where he's been recruiting. So, that's an interesting one, man. And I've not thought about it, but now that you said it, that'd be a fun hire, wouldn't it? Oh man, just don't get me wrong. I love the Pirate. I'm rooting for him.
Yeah.
I think winning the Egg Bowl would save his job, but if things don't go right, man, got Deion right down the road.
Exactly. So a lot of pressure on this Egg Bowl. Cannot wait. I did want to give a quick shout out here. Emmanuel Forbes, Mississippi State DB. He had another pick 6. That is his 6th for his career. That's the most in SEC history. So credit Emmanuel Forbes. He's going to be playing in the NFL before long.
Yeah.
And then the final game, Shade, Alabama beats Austin Peay 34-0. I'm not going to sit here and analyze this one, but I will say, Shade, very, very, very few fans showed up for Alabama.
Yeah.
That's not that that's a huge red flag, but because it is Austin Peay, it was an early game and all that, but disappointing. I mean, you got to support these guys. You know what?
Yeah, I wish we were playing Austin Peay this week. We'd still be in the race, Mike.
All right, final thing here, Shay. We always like to hit on the point spreads.
Yes.
And we got some great games. Rivalry weekend in the SEC. So let's just go in order of the games here, Shane. The Egg Bowl, Mississippi State at Ole Miss. Point spread for that one.
Give me Ole Miss -4.
Ooh, almost nailed it, Shane. Ole Miss -3. And I think,
it's going to be a
really,
good one.
this could be closer to a pick 'em by kickoff.
Yeah, my favorite game. One of my favorite games.
Now, how about this one on Black Friday, Shane? Arkansas at Missouri, nationally televised.
Arkansas at Missouri. Give me Arkansas -6.5.
Man, you're close. 5 for the Razorbacks.
Okay. Oh, man, listen how close these are, Mike. It's going to be an awesome week.
Now, also, for the first time, I believe, on Black Friday, this game normally on Saturday, Florida at Florida State. So we're going to have 2 SEC matchups on Friday. Who's favored here? Florida at Florida State, you think?
Well, naturally, I'm going to go with Florida. Bounce back -3.5.
Florida State by 9. What are they thinking? I mean,
what?
You can't give me. I would not even favor them like you said, but
hell no.
1 or 2 at most.
Yeah, gonna have Winky and Wart Dunn down there. What's going on? Huh? Is Willie Taggart still coaching down there?
All right, how about this one? Say Georgia Tech at Georgia.
Georgia Tech at Georgia. Oh man, Georgia -500. No, Georgia. I will say they're not going to make it easy on them. Georgia -30, 28. Give me 28.
You had it the
31.
first time. 33.
Okay, yeah, it's up there.
I'm surprised. I guess if they had a more maybe explosive offense, this would be closer to 40. Don't you think?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
They're going to get the backups in early.
Yeah.
All right, how about this one, Shane? South Carolina at Clemson, red hot Gamecocks.
Oh man, I'm on their page right now. They're going to favor Clemson, but they shouldn't. So give me Clemson -2. 14.5.
Well, we all know Beamer ball. They're better as an underdog, Shane. They're a big one this weekend. Clemson favored by 16.
Shit. That's 16. They're 21.5. That's nothing. Nothing to them. Give me Gamecocks by 50.
How about the Mayor's Cup, Shane? Louisville at Kentucky.
I think it was a rally this week, Mike. So give me Kentucky minus 6.
3. How about that?
Okay. Hey, still the favored.
Yeah.
At least, I'm saying that's good. I'll take it.
How about the Iron Bowl, Shane? Auburn at Alabama.
Oh, this is going to be a fun game, Mike. I still think they're going to give Alabama a lot of love, but I cannot wait for this one. Give me Alabama minus 16.
21.
Ooh, no respect for the Cadillac. Come on, man.
This has got upset against the spread written all over it, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Alabama don't even worry. What are they playing for? They're like Tennessee. We're just just playing for NIL contracts right now. So a bunch of individuals running around. So
how about LSU at Texas A&M?
Oh man, give me LSU minus 13.
9. That's surprising to me.
That's going to be tight, man. They think it's going to be tight. Wait, where's it at?
At Texas A&M.
Well, I mean, there's that. If they can get everybody, they announced 90,000 people at that thing. I think they missed a digit there.
All right, potentially the game of the week now in the SEC. Shane, final one on the board: Tennessee at Vanderbilt. Red hot Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt minus 7. I ain't even going to entertain this one. I don't know. I'm so distraught. What do you got?
Tennessee by 14.
See, you know what I'm saying? 14 Vanderbilt. That's 1 week changes it.
Yep.
So anyway, put all your money, put all your prize pick monies on the Vandy side, because they're going to have 1 billion yards rushing and passing. Everybody's offense looks good against us.
But just listen, take in those games I just said, Shane.
Yeah,
so many great games. We do got 2, maybe 3 with a lopsided point spread. But hell, throw all that shit out. There was what I say this week. Unfortunately for you, Shane, it was Tennessee that came with it. But I said these home underdogs, there's going to be an upset or two. There's going to be this weekend too. There always is in rivalry weekend. Motivation, coaching changes, portal, recruiting. I mean, all these things are swirling in the wind here. Man, cannot wait to eat some outstanding food and watch some outstanding football. Maybe the greatest week known to man.
This is it. This is it, Mike. This is it. There's some of you that will not get to watch your team play another game this year.
Right.
And you know who you are. You're not going to a bowl game. And even then, if some of your teams are going, you may not get to see some of your players go because they're going to sit out and get ready for the NFL. This is the best, without a doubt, the best week of college football, and you topple that with Thanksgiving and time with family and friends. It's a magical time of the year, and you need to soak it up. You need to embrace it. It's like that roll when you get done, that yeast. You just come in and you just clean up that gravy, Mike, because you got to finish it up because football is going away. Football will not be here much longer, so you better enjoy this final moments. And, anything can happen Saturday, man. Vandy may beat Tennessee. Auburn may beat Alabama. Ole Miss may go down to Mississippi State. There's so many ifs that could happen. Texas A&M not going to a bowl game. But what if they knock off LSU? That's something you can hang your hats on. So a lot of close spreads. That's what I love. And this is rivalry week, and I'm ready to soak it up, man.
I'm ready to not buckle my belt on my pants for the whole weekend. You know what?
That's right. I'm already thinking about it. I've been looking at the menu. Mom sent me a thing. She says, who's going to bring the sweet potato casserole this year? And I said, hell, I'm going to bring it because I want it done right, Mike. So all right, I'm looking forward to it.
So we're going to have a heck of a week here. Close out the regular season, Shane, and who knows, bowl games, coaching changes, recruiting, all that portal talk. I mean, we got a lot coming to the listeners of the show. So just quick shout out. Just want to say thanks everybody for sticking with us for another season, the best weekend of football coming up here. But that is going to do it for this episode of the show. I appreciate you as always. I appreciate you driving all the way down to Nashville to watch a beating that we both saw.
Yeah, I know. It's my last trip, Mike. I want to thank all the South Carolina fans that stopped listening 3 weeks ago and just came back to hear Shane whine about the refs or something, because where's the holding penalties, Mike? It's just 12 steps. I'm going through them too. So, no, I'm looking forward to, hey, you know what? It's behind us. It's over with. It was a great season, and we still got some more football left in the tank. So I'm ready to see what happens. And also, it's a glimpse of what the programs are going to look like next year. So I'm absolutely ready for it. And I think we're going to have some more noise, some more upsets, maybe even some fire-ins after this game.
Yep. Well, brother, that's going to do it. Appreciate you as always. We'll catch you on the next one.
All right. See you guys. Go Vols. Maybe next year. Next year's our year, baby.